Paltrocast.
So, Brian, a pleasure to be speaking with you. But before I ask how you are, have I committed a sin by not calling you Trey?
No, no. And in fact, I am trying to figure out what to call myself in the context of this project because I really didn't want to do interviews in character because that seemed annoying, frankly.
Yeah.
And like it wouldn't be fun. So no, don't call me Trey right now. Now, if I'm on stage, maybe you know what? Maybe that's the only time I'm on stage. Then that's Trey. And I've got the white suit and the sax and all that stuff. Right now, I'm just Brian.
But I do love, besides the music, the Trey Magnifique name. Have you heard from Trey Cool from Green Day's Lawyers yet?
I have been wondering if that's coming. I did add a Y on purpose,
Right.
so that there wouldn't be any confusion. Also, there's no accent in my name. So here's hoping for the best. Look, if Trey Cool wants to reach out, I'd love to talk to you sometime. Yeah.
So it's very brave of you, and I'm using the word brave, not in like a South Park, like he's so brave.
Yeah.
A real brave thing for you to do multiple projects outside of what's essentially a successful day job. Most artists would go, well, I have millions of social media followers. What do I really have to say outside of that? In
Right.
your case, how long was Trey Magnifique brewing for?
It's been a few years. So I used to have play sax as my main instrument in college, and then the comedy stuff through Ninja Sex Party really took off, and I became primarily a comedy musician as opposed to like a jazz hobbyist basically.
Mhm.
And then 5-ish years ago, I wanted to get back into some real sax stuff. Thought, what's the stupidest saxophone I can buy? Soprano immediately came to mind. Although you could probably argue that there are two other extreme ends: is the contrabass saxophone, which is huge,
Yes.
and then the sopranino, which is teeny tiny. Those didn't seem quite as versatile. And also I can't carry a contrabass saxophone around, or afford one for that matter. So I bought a soprano and was like, hey, let's see what happens. A backing band that I work with all the time, TWRP, whose bassist Commander Meouch produced the Trey album, asked me to do some sax stuff with him, and I was like, well, let's try out a new persona for this. For some reason, I'm incapable of being myself on stage, and just came up with Trey Magnifique as a fun, kind of silly sounding name. So
It must be a relief not to have to wear anything on your face though when you're performing.
Oh, dude, like I can't even tell you that mask. So I'm still wearing. Next year will be the 15th anniversary of
Yeah.
Ninja Sex Party. I'm wearing the same mask I did from day one. It's a synthetic fabric, and every time I put it on, I'm smelling the inside of my mouth
Yes.
over 15, and you can't get that stink out. It's awful. It's
The
bad.
only thing I can tell you from experience, the only thing that would make it worse is if you had a beard under the mask, because there hits that point when you have a beard where, and you could tell me if I'm totally wrong. I don't know if you've had a beard.
I have, yes.
Okay, there hits that point. I'm going to say 2 to 3 weeks in where you go, I can smell the food in here.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. And well, with the ninja mask too, I'm a man of a certain age, going a little gray, and at some point the gray starts sticking out from the mask, and then it just looks like something's going wrong, right? If the facial hair is long enough and it's poking out of the holes in the mask, it's not a good look. So I try to keep it trimmed pretty tight.
Going to interrupt and throw a compliment. I'm sure whatever you choose to do, you do it the classy, smart way. The MIT in you kind of forces that.
Thank you.
So back to the compliments and how great you are.
Yeah,
and
well, please.
You do and all that. So to confirm, Ninja Sex Party, not dead, just taking a break while you're doing the solo thing?
Not even really taking a break. Like we're putting out a new original album in March. Is that right? March of next year. So we've been hard at work on that. Danny, my partner in Ninja Sex Party, just keep solo projects going while we do NSP. I have a kids music project I do as well called Go Banana Go. He's got a bunch of solo stuff and stuff with other people. The goal is like, just keep making stuff, and you put it out when it's ready to be put out. So Ninja Sex Party is not even taking a break. We're going harder than ever, and we'll have a new single out in a couple of weeks.
Wow. Well, in your case, coming from the improv background with the UCB, I'd have to imagine that the writing stuff is the easy part of the whole thing.
As opposed to
Okay, a
what?
lot of artists can't do 12 songs a year. It takes them 2 years to do 12 songs. In the
Mhm.
case that you have the Trey Magnifique, you have Ninja Sex Party, you just had mentioned the children's project, you mentioned the backing band that plays with you in Trey Magnifique. There's no shortage of creativity. It's
Yeah.
just maybe the getting you to the stage is the hard part.
Yeah, honestly, that is true. It's the recording is tough because I want to do it right for all these projects. The easiest one to record is the kids band because that's just me and my partner Jim Roach, who's also the producer for Ninja Sex Party and a million other things we do. So that one is just the two of us, generally speaking, but it's getting into a studio because we want it to
Mhm.
sound good. And then, yeah, and getting on stage. We're both busy guys. You know, Dan is part of this popular gaming channel, Game Grumps. They're always recording, they're touring. You know, it's like getting the two of us plus the backing band on a bus to do a tour. It's not easy. And I have a family. Dan's married. Like, we got people that, we want to be around. And yeah, the writing is much easier than the actually being in the same place to do a show for sure.
Improv background. Well, another thing that I like about you and what you do is your openness to collaborate with other artists. It's not like a, hey, we're the only funny people that are allowed to be here. So seeing you
Yeah.
guys perform with Steel Panther,
Mhm.
even if that is a one-off, a lot of artists would be, well, we don't want to be pigeonholed to that. Now, I love Steel Panther. I'm
Mhm.
wondering what the commonality between you and them is. Are you secretly a Van Halen guy?
Honestly, that is not so much my background, but the Steel Panther does that like metal stuff so well.
Yeah.
I mean, the production, the sound, they're great musicians. Honestly, the commonality was just comedy music. And they have what I like about their music is that they take the production side very seriously,
Hmm.
and do it really well. And that's from the beginning with NSP. Those guys have been around a bit longer than we have. And from the beginning with Ninja Sex Party and with Trey Magnifique too, it's like, let's take the production seriously. Let's make the music sound good. Even if the lyrics are the stupidest thing you've ever heard, let's really dial in the production. And with Ninja Sex Party, for the first few albums, it was just me and Dan. We had a mixer, but it was, the instruments were all digital. Once we started working with our current producer, Jim Roach, who I mentioned before, then it was like, okay, now we have actually a budget for a producer and can like make the music sound like we always wanted it to. So I think that's the main commonality is like, don't do the poorly produced comedy music thing, which is I understand why people do it because it's much easier and sometimes tech and budget and all that.
Yeah.
But what I like comedy musicians. Weird Al is another good example who take the music seriously. Like make it a comedy song, but make the music good. And that's something I've always admired. My training is jazz and classical and all that stuff. I want to write good music where if you sometimes we get all the instrumental tracks for stuff for Ninja Sex Party. I would just listen to the instrumentals because it's like, I like this. I like the music we wrote. And that should stand on its own.
Right. So this is another compliment about, that I do appreciate the production. I grew up a big Howard Stern fan,
Mhm.
and most of the comedy songs that you would hear on that, most of the song parodies, you couldn't listen to it twice
Right.
because the production was a little lackluster. It sounded like just somebody doing a karaoke track, singing
Yeah.
on top of it. They maybe didn't like scope the original recording from it either. Not the case with you. So it's cool to learn that journey of upgrading the production. Now, when I mentioned Steel Panther, they're another group where they were kind of in development deal hell, where there was supposed to be a movie about them, et
Oh,
cetera.
really? I didn't even know that. Yeah.
Well, in your case, were there a lot of failed development deals? We're going to mainstream these guys, things that we don't know about from over the years. And I'm not asking what specifically
Well,
they
I can tell you specifically what they were. Nothing.
Oh,
Like nothing. We have been fully indie since the beginning.
yeah.
We've never tried to do mainstream stuff. Like we've been really like a YouTube act with a YouTube ethos, and we like we toyed around with the idea of writing a movie or a TV show or something. But even for those, never even got to the pitching stage because it was like it just didn't feel like the right thing for this band. And it's also hard, which is enough to dissuade a lot of people.
Yeah.
But we never tried to do the mainstream thing. At some, yeah, we kept wondering, hey, is there any like crossover potential here? And every time we would try to write something that was like maybe crossover friendly, we would get to the end of it and we'd be like, this sucks. This isn't fun. Toss it. And none of those things ever saw the light of day, or even got beyond like a writing session. So, I'm firmly of the belief that you make the stuff that you like and the stuff that speaks to you, and then that's going to be the best stuff you make. And if it blows up, it blows up. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But people, I think chasing mainstream success is A, very difficult, and B, almost always a recipe for making something you're not happy with.
Well said. I don't think I'm going to top that one, but I'm going to try, and I'm going to keep throwing you questions
Yeah,
here.
sure, please.
So it's a very busy calendar for you, juggling all these projects while touring and all that. How does that usually get done? Is there a management team, or are there just like a lot of iCals and GCals that go around?
A lot of GCals for sure. It's there is a management team, but right now that's just for Ninja Sex Party. So I don't have my own manager. It's a lot. I used to be a scientist, and I'm very good at organizing things and kind of planning things out. And it's just kind of scheduling. I'm good at scheduling, and I'm good at staying on top of stuff. But yes, there are a lot of dangling threads for bands and podcasts and blah blah blah, all this different stuff. But it's, I don't know, I think they're like a lot of people in the arts. It often feels like I'm not doing anything, even though I'm in 5 bands or whatever. Like, but most of my time I'm like, should I be doing something right now? I feel like I should be doing something. But then, of course, when it gets crazy, it gets really, really crazy. So, but this is, I think the life of a freelancer, right? All these bands are indie, self-employed. We're not, staffed on a TV show or something. When you make your own schedule, I think you tend to really feel the gaps.
Well said. Another thing, and please don't take this as a negative thing. This is a compliment.
Oh, please. Yes.
So with the covers that you were doing, in my opinion, Weezer stole a couple of covers from you.
Oh,
was that ever addressed?
Was it addressed? Like, did we notice that, hey, Weezer like is maybe doing a bunch of songs that we did after we did them? We noticed that.
Okay.
Do I think it was calculated? I don't know. I'm never one to ascribe to, what's the word, malicious intent, what can be explained by coincidence. But after like the third one, I was like, I don't know about this. I remember I did tweet something from Ninja Sex Party once that obliquely hinted at it. And then I looked up like a meme generator that had a newspaper like headline generator. And I remember tweeting a picture that says "stupid fucking band dunks on Weezer," and which we barely even did. Look, I think it's probably just coincidence, but it does seem like quite a coincidence.
I find that the history of bands actually stealing covers from other bands, yes, it's only 3% of the fan base cares about that stuff, but just about all of your favorite covers ever were stolen another band's arrangements. Like, mentioning Van Halen again, the "You Really Got Me" cover was almost stolen from them. Mm-hmm. And then they had to leak that as the first single to beat another band from releasing that same arrangement of the cover. Yeah, and history is filled with thievery.
But I do want to be clear. What I'm saying, I don't think they used our arrangements in any way. Like, I think their arrangements are materially different than ours. It was more the song choices than anything else. But also, I think to me, it's like a mild, funny thing. And look, I think Weezer does a great job with what they do. So
yes. And that's like 8 albums ago for them, given how prolific they are. So they probably don't even remember who they lifted ideas from.
I'm not sure what they remember. Yeah.
Hey, back to you. So you just told me there's no shortage, no drought of material. You're also a family man and all that. Do you have any hobbies outside of music? Is there a number 2? Are you a secret golf person, for example?
The only thing it's, like all good freelancers, I have a hobby, and then think, should I monetize that? Should I try to find a way to make money from that? So I am I'm big in like what would be called the puzzle community. These are
Oh,
people who construct and solve puzzles of different types,
yeah.
not jigsaw, but like pencil and paper puzzles. Think like, the mildest version of this is like a crossword, but there's all sorts of innovative, cool things. Kind of the central event is this thing at MIT called the Mystery Hunt. Happens every January. So I'm kind of a lurker in that community, but I solve a lot of puzzles and I write a bunch as well. In the early 2000s, I wrote a few puzzle hunts that ranged around Manhattan for a little bit, but that's the closest thing I have to a hobby. Although I am also a professional puzzle constructor. So is it really a hobby if you sometimes get paid for doing it? No, but you know,
I say it's a hobby, and weirdly enough, my wife works for a company that makes puzzles, so it sounds like we have to send you some puzzles.
oh yes, please, yeah, I'd love to hear more about this too. Yeah.
Well, down to the last two questions before I let you roam free.
Mhm.
What's the last concert that you went to as a fan?
Oh, as a fan, let's see.
And you can get obscure jazz on me. Like I listen to a lot of Level 42.
Oh,
I'm
I
not
love.
afraid of the fusion.
As you might notice, we covered one of their songs. Love Level 42, underappreciated band for sure.
What? Okay, what I could talk about them for about 40 minutes, which I won't here. But
Yeah.
I listen to his bass player and I go, "Hey, Les Claypool may have borrowed a thing or two right there."
Uh-huh.
The whole yacht rock revolution, Level 42 never gets his due. They might be
Yeah.
the best of those bands.
Yes.
Uh, Plus, they have more than one great lead singer. How many bands have more than one great lead singer in them?
I know. Look, well, we can put sticks up there, I guess, and a bunch of like, uh, that there are others, but I agree they're hard to find. So as a fan, actually, it was just, was it even a week ago? I guess just about a week ago, I went to see Snarky Puppy here in LA. Kind of a big jazz collective. We've worked with the tenor player Bob Reynolds for our band's Ninja Sex Party and Starbomb. That was kind of just a side. We hired him as a session guy for a few things, but I love Snarky Puppy. Their album We Like It Here is one of my favorite jazz albums of certainly the last, whatever it is, 10 years, but possibly all time. And they were playing the Orpheum here in LA, and I I love that band. I love that. I was talking to the buddy I went with about this. It's a kind of mainstream jazz nerdery that I would have thought impossible, 20 years ago. Like these bands like Snarky Puppy or Wolfpack, or artists like Thundercat, Kamasi Washington. These guys, like, these are hardcore jazz guys. Like, these are really talented jazz musicians, and it's amazing to me that Snarky Puppy can do, a national tour in 2,000 cap rooms and crush. Like, I love that this kind of nerd jazz, and they're not doing like, traditional jazz. Like, this is like odd time signatures and tons of
Yes.
musicians and wild solos. I love that there's an audience for this. We also got a real treat because they brought on Corey Henry, their former
Yeah.
keyboardist, for the encore. His solo on Lingus is, I think, maybe the greatest keyboard solo ever. It's way up there. And that's I think the last track on We Like It Here. And when he came out, I was like, oh my God, I've never seen him perform live. So I was very excited to see that.
Tell me if I'm off base with this. I call Snarky Puppy jazz roots, meaning that the roots are everybody's backing band within certain genres, and then Snarky Puppy is everybody's backing band within other genres.
Yeah, I think that's pretty close. Yeah. I love what those guys have accomplished, and that there's still an audience for it. A lot of people I know are Snarky Puppy fans, even if a little bit. So it's great. It's great stuff. They had, what was the opening band? I think it was House of Waters, which was a trio I'd never heard of before, but they were awesome. It was drums, bass, and hammered dulcimer. So they had a jazz hammered dulcimer player who was just destroying. It was really, really, really fun.
Sounds very Zappa-esque and something I
Yeah,
should be checking out.
yeah,
But
it was great. Yeah.
last question for you on a totally different path here.
Mhm.
You're not the first person I've interviewed from Pompton Plains, New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
There was Jason Biggs. I was supposed to get Pete Yorn. I didn't get Pete Yorn. But I'm curious, were you in high school at the same time as Pete Yorn?
I don't know that name, but I also went to a private day school, not in. So I was born in Pompton Plains, grew up in Pompton Lakes nearby, and then went to Montclair. This is such a douchey sounding name. Montclair Kimberly Academy, MKA High School, or actually like elementary through high school in Montclair. So I didn't, I knew a couple of the kids who lived nearby in like Pompton Lakes, but no. So I don't know. How old is Pete Yorn?
Late 40s.
Yeah, I'm so plausibly. I mean, yes, then I'm 48, so we would have been in school at the same time, but I don't
But
think.
the key is you went to school in Montclair before it was a cool town, before it was a hip
Oh,
town,
yes, it's
pre-Colbert,
pre-Colbert. That's right.
before the new radical guys, I think, wound up hiding there.
Yeah, we in Montclair, I remember was a Crazy Rhythms was the record store. I don't know if that I assume that place isn't there anymore. But yeah, it was not a cool town. It was like clearly there were some like rich parts of Montclair. I think at some point I was like, wait, some of these kids at school are like crazy rich.
Yes.
We were not one of those families. But there were definitely some like crazy mansions on what was it, Upper Mountain Ave in Montclair that occasionally you drop a friend off and you'd be like, what? You live here? Wild.
In one of my as an investigator, and one of my like things where I was looking up some Gene Simmons business things, all of his business weirdly redirects to Montclair. So I think that just kind of
Really? Oh,
yeah.
weird.
I don't know if there's some tax haven allegedly in
Who the
Montclair.
hell knows? It's North Jersey, dude. I assume there's a lot of stuff going on that I don't want to know about, right?
Paltrocast.